Earlier this morning, Canon News posted a story about a patent filing on an RF 135mm f2 lens. Yep, that's right. I know what you're thinking. No, Simon, you got that wrong. It's the 135mm f2. Canon Rumors just put out something this morning. Well, actually, you're both correct, or I'm correct and you're correct. You see, there is a patent filing for a 135mm f2 lens that was filed back in 2020, and that's what Canon Rumors is talking about this morning. But there's also a 130mm f2 patent filing that Canon News is talking about this morning. Let's take a look at the lens embodiments for the 130mm f2. As you can clearly see here, the focal length is 130mm 0.7, it has an f-stop of 2, and it has a back focus of 27.26. Now, if you'd like to do your own research and you want to go take a look at the patents yourself, well, here are the two patent numbers. Now, for the one talked about by Canon Rumors, the Prime 135mm f2, that's a Japanese patent filed in 2020, and the number is 148705. Now, the Japanese patent for 2022 for the 130mm f2, well, that's number 43436, or 2022-43436. I know what you're thinking. How many 135mm lenses are we supposed to have? Well, I really can't speak to that, but there's three that I want to talk about. And these rumors go all the way back to 2020, and Canon Rumors just covered each one of them, giving them a CR1, which means that they're not validated in any way whatsoever. But if you see a patent filing, the thing to note here about a patent filing is it doesn't mean we're going to see it. They're just protecting their research and development. We might see something similar. We might see technologies from the 130mm, but we might just get a 135mm prime. Back in 2020, we had the rumor for the RF 70 to 135mm f2, and this was supposed to complete the holy trinity of the 10 to 28, the 28 to 70, and of course this being the 70 to 135, each one of these at f2 being an image stabilized L-series USM lens. And then that kind of changed. We stopped hearing about the 70 to 135. All the rumors more or less started talking about the RF Prime 135mm f2. And that's what we've been hearing about up until now, and now we have the 130mm f2. So what are we likely to see? Well, it certainly makes sense that we could see a 70 to 135. It does make sense, but I think many of you out there would rather see a prime lens, a 135mm, although if they came out with a 130, well, that's fine too. 5mm, I think at this focal length isn't going to make a huge amount of difference. It really matters what the lens embodiments are. What is the back focus? What are elements like that going to tell us? And that's really hard to say because we don't know anything about what Canon's plans are. And let me show you this slide here. If you look at this slide here, and this is my list. This is my list of all the rumored lenses that we were supposed to be getting from around 2020 and onwards. And I used to update this on a monthly basis, but I stopped. And the reason I stopped is, as you can see, most of them are CR1 or CR0, which means they're not validated, and very few of these actually came to pass. Those ones that are highlighted in red, those definitely came out. The ones in green, well, those are referencing the different 135mm focal lengths, but everything else either didn't come to pass or didn't come to pass with the rumored specifications. And at one point, this list got to be 2 pages long. And with everything that's happened in the last 2 years, I just decided to stop putting this out there because it was really conjecture at best. There wasn't really any newsworthy items. And while I don't mind covering rumors and news, especially if it's a little bit more on the conjecture side, if it looks like the probability of it happening is anywhere around 10 to 30% and it's not proving to be reliable, well, I just don't want to cover it. I don't want to cover news and rumors that is just more or less wild-ass guesses that's going to, lead you to hopes and aspirations of what might come, and never does. No, I want to try to cover the rumors and news that is actually authentic, that is trustworthy, that has a reliable chance of coming to pass. The 135mm is a very, very special focal length, and I really would rather have a prime than a 70 to 135, because you see, this prime focal length, sure, it's an L-series lens. Sure, it's going to have much less chromatic aberration. It's going to be sharp from the center to the edges, regardless of what aperture you're at. But most importantly, this is an incredible portrait lens. It's great for street photography. It's not one of those portrait lenses where you want to shoot inside. There's other lenses like a 100mm or 50mm or even an 85mm that really do a good job there. But if you're shooting outside, you're doing any sort of wildlife portrait where you've got the background and you want to nicely blur that out, or if you're doing street photography, or more importantly, you're a photojournalist, but you don't want to get it right out there. You want to sort of take your shots without your subjects being aware so you can capture life as it's really happening. You're capturing the honesty. Well, then a 135mm prime is the way to go, and it's a very, very special lens. So what about dates? Well, we don't know. I did talk yesterday about 2 lenses that were supposed to be coming out very, very shortly, but I wouldn't keep your hopes up. 2022 is proving to be worse than 2021, which is worse than 2020 in terms of what we expected to come out and what is actually going to come out. Yes, Canon is backed up. We're expecting 6 bodies because we got 6 registered digital cameras. And as far as lenses go, well, we're expecting a lot to come out this year as well. But as far as the rumors, there's been very little talk about a 135mm, let alone a 130 or a 70 to 135. But lastly, I want to reinforce that when we see a patent filing, while this is news, that actually becoming a lens that actually gets manufactured and sold, well, that's where the rumor comes in. Just because we have a patent doesn't mean we'll actually get a lens. Now, there is one last thing I want to talk about. Angelbird has just released a firmware update for their AV Pro SE and their AV Pro SX card, as well as the Mark II of their AV Pro series. So that's the 1TB, 4TB, 2TB, 512GB, the 160GB. The update includes some tweaks as well as full compatibility with Nikon QXD cards. And if you want a Canon camera, well, your boot up time is going to be a little bit faster. So that covers off the Nikon. That covers off the Angelbird firmware update. You can go ahead and get it on Angelbird's site. I also have the link down below. And also, please feel free to use my affiliate links down below when purchasing stuff, but do be careful. If you're purchasing from B&H and you're not from the United States, definitely look into the warranty considerations because, and this can happen even if you're buying tripods like the Manfrotto that I have here, if you buy that from the United States and you're not in the United States, you might find out that your warranty, well, it doesn't mean anything. So always be careful when you're buying out a country. Check out the warranty information to see if you have coverage. And when you do purchase from the affiliate links down below, all the money that I get from that goes back to, well, helping the channel out. And on Friday, I'm hoping to be able to have a Mac Studio in here. That extra speed is going to allow me to produce videos a whole lot quicker, and I'm going to start producing more content in 8K. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to seeing what Canon's going to do with the Canon EOS R1. If this is supposed to be a master of everything, then I'm definitely going to purchase that camera for this channel. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the leaks on this to see if this is truly an exciting camera. Can the Canon EOS R1 create the same level of excitement that the Canon EOS R5 did? We'll just have to wait and see. But I think we've gotten spoiled a little bit. We've gotten spoiled with cameras that can shoot 8K 60, 8K 30, and even 8K 120 frames per second like the Red V Raptor. So how can the Canon EOS R1 blow our minds, so to speak? How can the Canon EOS R1 exceed our expectations? Subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss any news as it comes out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.